All right, let's start episode 151. 3, 2, 1. Hey, what's up, everybody? It's the ID84 show live here from quarantine week 6,543. We have been in quarantine since JFK's been president, which has been a very long time, considering he was president in the 60s. As always, below me is Adam the Mallett. Yeah. And to my right is the one and only Brian Glover. What's going on, guys?
What your country can do for you, but what your country
Yeah. Hair loss solutions, as you found out from our last episode, is something that you could do. There you go. So we're going to get right into it. A guest is waiting on deck. Would you like to introduce her?
Professional slut, sexy MILF housewife who loves the full range of sexes life has to offer, from being covered with coming and gangbang to thoroughly pleasing other women, Aria Khaide.
Aria, thank you for joining the ID84 show. So sorry we had you wait a little bit.
It's all right.
But we appreciate it. And thank you for joining us tonight.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited.
Where are you joining us from?
So I'm currently in Las Vegas right now, shooting and doing what I do best, but I'm from New Jersey, born and raised.
Jersey girl.
Jersey girl.
You spend time on the Jersey Shore as you grew up?
So everyone always asks the question, what exit, Jersey Shore, like fist pumping, and I'm like, well, I'm from the part of New Jersey that has farm country in the suburbs, and the reason why we're called the Garden State is where I'm from, okay? So.
I was very surprised. We used to drive to Florida when I was a kid all the time, and you drive to Jersey, and you get to the northern Jersey part. It's very industrial, very, you get that smell that's up there, that everyone talks about. But when you get to, about a half hour into it, after you get about halfway through, it's like forest and green, and it's like, oh, all right, this is why they
call it. It's the real New Jersey. We have hiking, we have lakes, you never know.
Did you go to the shore at all when you were a kid, or
I did. Growing up, it depends who you're going with, right? You're going with mom and dad, you're gonna go to the quiet beaches, and then when you're going with your friends, you're gonna go to Belmar, you gotta go to DJ's or Point Pleasant at Jenks. So it was depending, how short is the skirt I'm wearing, or what does my bikini look like? Am I with mom and dad, or am I with my friends,
The only time I've ever been to the Jersey Shore was last summer for the first time. I went to Atlantic City, which I guess is technically the shore, but it's not Atlantic.
Okay.
And it was very interesting. It's because you hear stories and you have this idea in your mind that you develop. We're all from, well, me and Adam are from Boston, so you hear the Jersey Shore. We all watch Jersey Shore. We get some kind of
Of course, and none of them are from New Jersey.
None of them, right? Isn't it funny how that works?
By the way,
and
I'm a diehard Patriots fan, by the way. Just so you know.
A Jersey girl calling out the Patriots. Look at that.
I know. Well, Bill Belichick was an All-American lacrosse player, and I was a D1 lacrosse player, so that's why.
That's a fact right there.
There's your fun fact of the day from Aria Khaide.
Not a lot of people know that, in fact, actually. So a New Jersey girl who's a Pats fan, which is very ironic because the team that plays in New Jersey beat the Patriots twice in the Super Bowl.
I know. Well, I say that I was so drunk for those Super Bowls that I don't remember the score, so it didn't count. Yeah.
I was at the second one in Indianapolis, and I gotta tell you.
Oh, really? Very cool.
I was very drunk, and I still remember the score.
Yeah, no, I was too drunk. I blocked it out of my memory. It doesn't count. My husband's a Giants fan, so it cuts a little bit deeper too. So.
So you can tell your husband, this is a fun fact. I was at that Super Bowl in Indy. It was 2012. Obviously, the Giants won, and it was a very small population of Patriots fans out there at the time. So we had left a little bit early. Me and my buddies went to the strip club. And while we were in the strip club, the one strip club in town, we came across no other than 50 Cent, diehard Giant fan.
That's so funny.
He bought us a round of drinks out of sympathy because we were sitting there with our Tom Brady jerseys and they're crying in
by yourself.
And the bartender, the waitress comes over and she's like, he has a couple of drinks. We're like, oh, and they go, it's from that guy over there. And 50 Cent, I'm gonna tell you, he was like maybe 5'1". He's a short guy, big guy.
No, he is. He's just like that. He's wide. Yeah.
Had his posse around him, and he was sporting like a Giants jersey and stuff like that. He just looks at us and smiles, and I was like, what can I say?
You're like, it's 50 Cent. We'll let this slide, asshole.
Exactly. So you're in Vegas right now. How long have you been in the industry for?
So it's kind of a long-winded story, but in the shorter version of it, my husband one day goes, you know what? you should do porn. You're a greedy slut. Go make money doing what you love. And I was like, oh, yes. Woohoo! Yay!
Great husband.
Yeah, exactly. So, well, he was posting my pictures on a site and our videos without telling me at first in the beginning of our relationship.
Oh, wow.
I was so scared and afraid, and I was like, oh my gosh. And then we had 10,000 followers, and I'm like, oh, okay, like, cool, maybe let's try this out, especially because I was a no one.
Yeah.
So I was going to jump into it, and we had 2 kids back to back unexpectedly.
Whoa.
Wow.
Yep, a little girl and a little boy, 2 under 4 in our house.
Oh, wow.
Yep, and a 90-pound dog on top of it named Brady. And so about a year and a half ago, almost 2 years now, Richard Mann reached out to me like, hey, you should really get into the industry. I'd love to shoot with you. And I was like, okay, let's do this. So 2 years ago, Richard Mann and then Rome Major were my first 2 scenes in the industry.
Your husband, so you, obviously this is like the opposite of what usually we talk to.
There's a lot of ground to cover on this one.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, so usually girls get into it, then they meet someone and they're familiar with the industry and they're cool with it. This is the opposite. You were just with your husband and he was like, let's have a career change. You know,
well, it's funny because a lot of people don't understand the dynamic of our relationship because we're actually monogamous outside of porn. Like, we weren't swingers that got into it. I only hook up with people on set and on camera. But he was a lot more, let's say, sexually deviant than I was. When I met him, my number was higher than his. And I would just be like, all right, you know, I love giving blowjobs. That's great. You know, what else can I do here? Meanwhile, he was more into like the kink side. So he had covered a lot of background. So at the beginning of our relationship, we were mostly doing like impact play and BDSM stuff. And then, of course, everyone saw like, oh, you know, you're married, you have a husband. So then it turned into we want the horny housewife, you know, kind of a thing. And half the time my husband's the one recording it or doing all the editing. So I'm like shit talking to my husband, like, oh yeah, you're so much better than my husband. And he's holding the camera, like trying not to laugh because I'm just talking shit at the camera and everything. So
just to rewind for a second. So this started when he started putting pictures online without you knowing. That, if you weren't into that, sounds extremely illegal.
Yeah, so technically he owned the pictures, if you will, because I was sending them to him.
Okay.
And I knowingly gave him consent to record us and everything. And then he was posting it on FetLife, which, if anyone isn't familiar with FetLife, I pretty much call it the fetish or kink Facebook. It's a safe space where you can talk to your friend or talk to people even that you may not know in person about interests you have that maybe you couldn't just talk to your friends in the bar, like, hey guys, have you ever tried this and that? And they're like, dude, what the fuck is wrong with you?
Really weird
like,
shit.
okay, let me log on to FetLife and talk to people that understand me. And so it was like a safe space. And he said he was so excited that he landed a 10 that he had to show it off.
Okay.
So I was like, okay, you know. So all of a sudden we had a bunch of people asking us, like, okay, where else can we find you? And I'm like, what do you mean, where else can you find us? Like, we're in Jersey, just recording whatever happens that night, you know. So it kind of was our jumping off point.
Is he now in the industry too?
Now he has a 9-to-5 corporate button-down shirt job.
Wow.
So if he said to you, hey, listen, I want to get into the industry, would you be cool with that? Or would that be something like that?
Oh, I'm the best hype man you'll ever find.
Oh, wow.
I'm like the best wing woman. I will be cheering him on.
Yeah.
You know, he sends me text messages all the time and he will say, oh, are you being a good little slut? How many loads did you take? Like all this stuff.
Wow.
I'll be sending them 10 times better to him. Like, oh, how hot was she? You know,
Jesus.
so
Can't even imagine that. That's I mean,
I'll cheer him on the whole way.
you guys are on the same page though, because it would be very awkward if you weren't. You know what I mean?
Fascinating, actually.
Yeah, so it's hard because a lot of his friends don't understand, right? They're like, your wife is out banging all these guys. What's your problem? Does that mean that you can bang whoever you want? And that's not our dynamic. And now that I'm in the industry, we realize we're getting tested all the time and how important it is to know your status and who you're with, because a lot of times swinger clubs, they're using condoms or it's like a gray area.
Yeah.
So if he ever wants to play or get into a scene with another girl, we've agreed that it has to be someone in the industry so that we know we're not messing around, you know.
Makes sense, because I mean it's your career at the end of the day, right? So you have to make sure.
Yeah. Well, my career, not only that, you know, it's my health, and if my health deteriorated, I've got 2 little kids, and then what, you know?
Yeah. No,
Do you at all worry about like someday like your kids, like when they grow up, it's like, hey, there's mom.
Yeah,
like when all kids look at porn, and one day, is this something you're gonna tell them, or is it something that you're gonna have to find out on their own? How would you approach that?
Okay, so another fun fact about me is that I used to be a sex ed teacher for high school students.
Oh, God.
That's awesome.
So picture this, teaching sex ed to you, and a phys ed teacher, you know.
Oh wow.
How many former students are just like on Pornhub right now? Just
hopefully they're buying it. Hopefully they're paying for their porn. Okay, do it the right way and support me properly.
of course.
Right? But we would sit them down and we would do more of like a sex positive parenting style, in that mommy and daddy got together. We were married.
Yeah.
We set boundaries. Yes means yes, no means no. And also it's really important for them to know that, you know, I'm 31, so it wasn't my first sexual experience. I wasn't just jumping into this for the wrong reasons or because I wanted that crazy fantasy sex to be my first time.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's really important that they can explore their own bodies, understand. I mean, there were countless amount of times that I would have the anatomy test in sex ed, and half the time you guys and girls couldn't even name their own parts, let alone someone else. So it's really important. Yep. Yeah, they did. Yeah, that whole where is the clit thing starts really, you know, starts at ground one. So I think that letting them know that they have to know their own bodies, their likes, their dislikes, and be in a safe space, you know, and obviously consent is always a big thing, but more that they're okay with where they are sexually too, like that they're confident where they are. That obviously there's going to be exploration no matter who you're with, but as long as they're not going in like, oh, I'm unsure about this, or I still don't know if I like this and this, you know.
Yeah.
I guess I can't make fun of people who don't know their parts, because I remember the first time I walked into a sex ed class, I saw the fallopian tubes and the uterus drawn on the board. I thought it was a cattle head.
Yeah, of course. Everyone's like, what is that? How is that supposed to, like, how does that get in there? I'm confused.
I have to ask you, when I was in health class in 8th grade, we did a diorama, I guess you could say, of the female anatomy, and we used a toilet paper roll.
Yeah.
And then a pear went on top of the toilet paper roll, and then we stuck 2 straws in the pear, and then we glued 2 almonds to the top of the straws to show the woman's reproductive system.
Yeah.
Is that something you've shared with your students when you were teaching, or something similar?
I haven't. It's hard because curriculum doesn't really come from me. It comes from the school district.
Okay.
So a lot of times I have to teach what they're giving me. But we had this box, a fun thing that you can ask any question and put it in the box, because a lot of times kids won't raise their hands and ask something because it's not cool that they don't know about this when some boys are, you know, in the stairwell getting a blowjob. So, you know,
I wish I was that.
Yeah, right. So I like had that. So some of the questions I would get, I have to remember, like, okay, a kid could be seriously asking a question, or, you know, half the time they're trying to pull one over on me, you know, like, oh yeah, my girlfriend, when I'm about to come, shouldn't I come all over her face because it's really good for her skin? And it's like, oh. It's like, all right, now I have to stand up there with a straight face, say, oh, we have a question today, read that question, and then answer it, you know, without being like, okay.
When I was in 9th grade, we had 2 lesbians come in to talk to us in health class, and as a 9th grader, you're 14 years old. You kind of think you know what you know, but you don't know what you know, kind of thing.
Yeah.
We had the same box, right? We put questions into the box. So I wrote in a question, of course, how do lesbians have sex? Because for the life of me, because you grew up, at this point, you know penetration, right? You get the idea.
Yeah.
So for me, I just couldn't wrap my mind around the whole process. Yeah. So of course, what happens? The first question that's pulled is my question. And I'm sitting there and I'm trying to I'm biting my lip because I know this.
You're like, it wasn't me.
Yeah, and I'm like, does anyone else know? And I'm looking around. I'm like, if people, and I look around, people like very inquisitive. And the poor girl, the girls were red as a tomato because I don't think they knew how to explain to a bunch of 14-year-old
Of
boys.
course, it's like, okay,
How-
well, here, let's show with our fingers, like, let's hold hands and show. Yeah.
They were very, I would say, informative. If they were very descriptive. They talked about toys. They talked about digits. They talked about mouth stuff. And at first, I was like, "This is fun," but I was like, "Huh." But then as you grow up, you get older, and you're like, "Well, that was a stupid question." Because I'm like, but at 14 and 19, what year?
Oh yeah, you don't, and half the time
1999.
you think of like sex is sex. Like you're saying penetration, you're not thinking like a blowjob is a blowjob.
Yeah.
Like this is this. You know, you're not thinking about all of those things being technically considered sex. You're like, oh, I just know that this goes in here and woohoo. And
Well,
then
it was
stuff happens.
exactly. It was 1999. The internet, porn on the internet, was just started at this point, so we were just kind of getting the top rim. And then we had a president who said that he did not have sexual relations with a woman, and he got a blowjob. So I was really confused at this point.
So you're like, I just don't know. And meanwhile, you're on AIM going ASL to all the ladies, right? Yeah.
And then ASL/P. Some of us had a digital picture. So yeah.
Saying my age there, you know,
Right.
knowing
Yeah.
what
I'm glad.
I was there. Trust me. We probably talked because I was bouncing around the GeoCities. Remember GeoCities or Yahoo?
Oh yeah.
There you go. So
Like the MySpace, you always had to follow the cool bands and have like the cool music on your profile.
the top 8. Why top 8? Right? That seems a weird number. Why not a top 10? I have top 8.
Tom's always in your top 8, whether you like it or not. He always like winds up in there.
And you
I'm
can't.
glad you realize recognize that ASL also means age, sex, location, because nowadays nobody knows that anymore. And I tried to get into a conversation with people who said ASL, and I said, "Oh, age, sex, location," and they're like, "No, American Sign Language Association."
And you're like, "Oh, now I'm an asshole." Talking about lesbians, there's lesbian in sign language.
You're way off. American. Oh God, I can't imagine. I mean, that was 2 decades ago. I mean, I remember coming home on like a Friday night. We go to the mall, right? You have like a 10 o'clock curfew.
Yeah.
You get home at 10 o'clock, and all your buddies, everyone just go online, right? So you're online. Now you're all in chat rooms, and you're like, let's go to the Yahoo Boston chat room. You know,
Oh my God.
You know? And you'd be there till 2, 3 in the morning on dial-up internet before we got the old, broadband or whatever the hell it was called back then.
Yeah.
Or yelled at because someone needed the phone.
Right? I remember like 3 o'clock in the morning once. My room was in the basement. I remember my father opening the bedroom door because when I was online, the light would flash on the phone to show that I was online.
Yeah.
So he picked up the phone and he heard bing, boom, boom, all that noise.
Yeah.
I remember him just picking up the phone. I lose my connection. I go, what the fuck just happened? No one's up. I hear, Arty, are you on the fucking internet right now? It's 3 o'clock. And I'm like, I'm doing something for school. Yeah.
Remember when you couldn't get back into the room because if you got kicked out and the room might be full?
Then you got to go to another room.
Then you're voted off the island.
It's like, damn it, you're in Boston chat 28. I just got thrown in 32.
Exactly. What I used to do, I used to put it out there real quick, right? I used to be like, hey, listen, no one asked me. I just gave my age, sex, location, right? I'd do that. And then I'd be like, hey, my AIM name is so-and-so, but I'm also on ICQ and Yahoo Check, and I have them all open over my screen right now.
Oh, so smooth operator.
Because you have to make sure you covered all avenues. Because some people, because you need someone to be like, oh, I don't have AOL. I have ICQ. I'm like, oh, okay. So I make sure. And I kept my screen names very relatable. So all you had to do is remember one. I was a pioneer at my time for marketing because you just make sure everything's the same. That way. Nowadays, could you even imagine trying to explain to a high school kid that situation?
They don't even understand that the hashtag is a pound.
No, they don't.
You've seen all of like the talk shows where they hand a kid like a map, a phone book, and then a rotary phone, and they're like, call, this car dealer, and then ask them for their address and circle it on the map, and they're like, and then you have to fold the map back up, and they're like, they keep just like going it. They think it's all around, and they just keep doing it the wrong way, and they're like, okay, is it under A or B's? Meanwhile, it says like cars, like home improvement, flooring. They're not like looking at any of that. So
I mean, you get the yellow pages. I mean, that's anything of a past. Who the fuck phone book is these days?
Now you just use the Google.
Yeah.
I got a question. So what is your favorite kind of scene to do?
If I could die doing one thing, it would be blowjobs.
Oh, there you go.
Don't give me anything else.
Yeah.
Just give me blowjobs. I
Why
love
that?
it.
Why that?
Yeah.
I think it's probably my dom side coming out, but I love pleasing and love knowing that I'm the one doing that.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's then like my athlete competitive side kind of comes out, and I'm like, yeah, no one's gonna do it better than me. Like the next girl that tries to suck your dick, you're gonna be like, oh, can you do the Aria Khaide? Because that
I
was
just heard
really
some
good.
Jersey. I just heard when you just said no one's gonna do it, but the way you just said that, I was like, "There's Jersey right there."
Forget about it, all right?
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense. I always wondered that. I'm like, what? Because like several girls we've asked have said the same exact thing, and it's like, but why? It's how does that pleasure?
I like every time if you look at any of my videos, if I'm moaning while I'm giving a blowjob, it's not fake. It's me loving it. I can honestly get off, and I just love like seeing the twitch, I'm sure same thing when you're doing anything with someone too, that you're like, oh, that you could see her squirm or her toes curl, and you're like, oh yeah, like that's the spot, I'm hitting that. And not every girl gives blowjobs, and not all girls that do give blowjobs give them well. So it's kind of nice to be like, this is actually something that maybe a lot of people aren't getting or getting well. So it's like, sit back, relax, and enjoy the ride. Let me do my thing,
I feel like the worst is going down on a girl and she doesn't go down on me. I feel like that's mean. That's just
I'm like the opposite. I'd be perfectly happy. I joked, my husband and I, we met on Tinder, and we joked that we both married each other for each other's mouths. He's got the mouth of a lesbian, and I give really good blowjobs.
That's pretty funny.
So I was never one to allow anyone to go down on me. I was just like, shh, sit down, shut up, let me do my thing.
Yeah.
And he was all about it. So it was kind of the first time that I was experiencing like the opposite, that you guys are, talking about like, okay, I'm going down on you. Like, where's my blowjob? Oh, I don't do that. Like oh,
Yeah, no, seriously, it's an art, I guess you could say, right? I mean,
yeah. Oh, I love it. Because there's like a million, and everyone's like, oh, well, do you always give the same way? No, because it's the same thing if you have a different partner. You see, doing one thing or another makes them really, tick, if you will. So you can really shake it up. And I have a super wet mouth, so it's always super sloppy.
That's the key right there. It's lubrication.
Speaking of your wet mouth, you have a very cool video. It's like a little bit of race play, and you say the N word in this video.
Ryan saved it. That's my
on how to feel about it.
Yeah, so that's a really touchy subject, especially with everything, and a lot of people aren't liking it being fetishized. You're talking about the super amateur video that I have out there, like super, super amateur, right? Okay. So that was one of my first ever videos. It was super amateur, and you can totally laugh at this, but he was someone that was serving in the armed forces and was only home for a little while. So I was kind of doing one of those before you go back off, keeping us all safe and free. What do you like? And he said, oh yeah, I really like when the N word is used. And I was like,
wow.
I was like, okay, well, not really realizing that it was going to be in the video too. I think it said like once or twice, not that saying it in general, but it was his fetish and his like. I've done a little bit with dick drainers because that's his thing. That's his MO. He hasn't released it yet, mostly because it is a fetish, and that a lot of people don't understand. Just like a lot of guys don't choke a girl, or a lot of guys don't like to smack a girl, because we've been taught for so long that it's not okay to lay your hands on a girl. Yeah. Just like it's not okay to just walk up to someone and use the N word. So it's a very fine line of fetish and usage of everything. So yeah, that's a super amateur.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
Clip of mine.
That was interesting. That was nice of you to help a soldier out. Like, I mean, shit.
I support all of our men and women in uniform. So.
Yes, I did notice there was an Instagram picture of you with a U.S.
Marine Corps
sweatshirt. Yeah. There you go.
Yep, I have a Marine sniper in my family. and Air Force very high up is what I'll say, because if I tell you, I'd probably kill you. Very high, very, very high up in the Air Force too. So it's very near and dear to my heart.
I did boot camp in Cape May. So.
Oh, really? Oh, very cool.
Yeah.
And I used to tell girls in college that I was an astronaut. So me and Ryan have a lot in common.
Yeah. You just pulled the whole like, oh, did you fall from the sky?
So
because I'm an astronaut. I saw you up there.
Well, I used to go to college parties, and people would be like, "So what do you do?" And I go, "Oh, well, I can't really tell you." And it's top secret stuff. And then we get into it, and I eventually I give a little information as the night goes on, and I eventually tell them I'm an astronaut, and I'm due to go to Mars in the next 6 to 7 months, and try to use that sympathy act. You know what I mean? Like, well, I'm going into space. Hey, I'm here. I did.
Let me help you out. Yeah.
Correct. Yes. And I was called out once by some jock guy who was half in the bag. He comes over and he's like, "You're the astronaut?" I go, "Yes, I am the astronaut, essentially." And he goes, "You can't be an astronaut." And I go, "Why can't I be an astronaut?" I go, "Have you seen many astronauts to compare me to other astronauts to know that I couldn't be said astronaut?" And he goes, "If you were an astronaut, you'd be able to do 100 push-ups right now." And I go, "Funny you said that. In space, I could do 1,000 push-ups because there's no gravity." And his head exploded and he walked away, and I was like, wow. I was like, so then I started telling people I just play minor league baseball for the Portland Sea Dogs. I'm a utility infielder, so that was a little easier to explain, so.
I didn't have I was more of a guy when I went to bars. I was just kind of like a hunter. I was like, okay, let's go. All right, we don't need to finesse this.
That's an endangered species. There's not many girls like that these days. Because
the slut, the endangered species.
I wouldn't. No, I'm not gonna. I wasn't gonna use that word. I was gonna say the aggressor.
I use it fondly. No, the term slut, because honestly, even if a guy's trying to use the word slut in a bad way, in the back of his mind, he's like, yeah, you're a slut. Like, oh, I wonder what kind of shit she does though, because she is a slut, so.
You're taking it back. You're trying to take that word and use it.
I want to be the greediest slut you've ever met. Like, I want to check that box off on my list.
All right.
Then you'll come encounter guys who are like, this is too good to be true. Like, a girl is coming up to me and telling me exactly what they want me to do. And so you go up to a guy and be like, hey, listen, this is my hotel key. I'll be there in 25 minutes, yada, yada, yada. And then you leave. So for most guys, we'd be sitting there looking at each other like, what the fuck? This is no.
See, I didn't play the coy game though. I was literally like, me, like, we're leaving together.
And it worked.
I was bad. Like, my girlfriends all of a sudden would be like, okay, Aria, we're all going to go to the bar. I'm like, all right, cool. That's great. Halfway through the night, my girlfriends would be like, oh, Aria will be back in 20 minutes. And then end of the night, an hour before last call, I'd come back and I'd be like, yep. And they're like, all right, you good? I'm like, yeah, it was good. Like, whatever. Like, find me a drink,
I mean, I think
minutes. It couldn't have been that good.
What?
Only 20 minutes. It couldn't have been that good.
I will, by the time they realized I was gone, or if I was, hooking up with a bartender or bouncer, we would just find the bathroom, they get me to the private bathroom and, just lock
Romantic.
it.
I don't know any bartenders that would do
I was probably the one that was like, all right, let's go. Like,
I know, I'm just
I need to get off before I have my next drink,
Yeah. No, I mean, and then I tell you, that guy has a story for the rest of his life, because he'll go back to his buddies and be like, you wouldn't believe what the fuck just happened to me. Because I feel like all of us have been, maybe, I am speaking for Ryan and Adam, but had been in a situation similar to that maybe. And at the time, you sit there and you're like, I feel like I'm going to be like on Dateline,
Yeah.
What's his name? The Hansons
like
come out and be like, what were you doing in that room? Why were you in that room? It's just too much for Ryan. You gotta leave. He's like, I can't take this.
He's like, I can't handle this. I can't. I tap out. I had it go bad on me. I had a wife come after me, and I was like, it wasn't my fault. Like, wasn't wearing a ring,
How did they track you down? Like, at the bar, they found you?
It was a bartender's wife that came after me, and I was like, sorry, never told me you were married. Like, good for you. Like, hope all is well.
Well, because they know that you're in for the short term. It's not like you're trying to take her husband to live.
And I went. It was the kind of place that I went to that bar every day.
Yeah.
you know, or every like weekend, you know. So it wasn't like it was anything new of like Aria's coming in, she's here to be like wifed up tonight, you know.
It wasn't like you were like a flight attendant just in for the night and not going to be back for 6 months, right? It's like you're a regular at that place.
Yeah, exactly.
So I mean, he should have knew better. You don't piss where you eat.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? So
you don't come where you eat.
more to the kids' staff.
Or come on what you're going to eat.
Oh, that's true. Yeah,
Either way.
that would be good. Unless that's like your new thing.
It could be a fetish. I don't know. There's somebody out there
if you think of it, there's a fetish for it, I'm sure.
Probably on that website. What was it? Fets.com?
FetLife.
FetLife. There you go. It's probably on there. I'm sure you could
Probably
find
a lot of foot stuff. I bet there's a lot of weird foot stuff on there.
Foot stuff, armpit stuff.
Armpit. Oh God, no.
Yeah, like licking armpits, licking necks.
Yeah.
Licking feet.
Licking eyeball. I've heard of that one. That's just weird.
Eyeballs weird.
Yeah.
I'm open-minded, but there's a limit to everything. I guess.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a line in the sand where I go, you know what? That's still too much for this guy, you know.
Yeah.
So, I guess the question is, so obviously your husband's into it. You're doing what you're doing. So you permanently live in New Jersey and you just go to Las Vegas to film? Is that the situation?
Yes, I'm in Vegas filming. So I got in yesterday. I'm filming here until Sunday. Then Sunday, I'm going to just drive from here to LA because it's only 3 or 4 hours. And instead of having my whole day in limbo with the plane, I'm just going to drive it. And then I'll be in LA until Tuesday shooting out there.
So usually when you film something, how long? You usually go a couple weeks at a time and then take some time off, or?
So I try to come out here like once a month if I can. I have people that I shoot with in New Jersey too. Freak Mob, I shoot with him probably once or twice a month. He's close to me, so that makes it easy for us to shoot too and get good content out. Mm-hmm. So it depends where I'm getting booked and where I can travel. I was supposed to travel to Miami and then everything was getting crazy, so I had to put that on hold. Next month I'll probably be in Phoenix for a little bit and then maybe back out here. So like I said, it depends where I get booked, but I travel at least once a month and then shooting at home in between.
How has COVID-19 been affecting you?
So I have 2 little ones at home. So parks and playgrounds were closed down. So that was really hard because that was, you know, for their sanity and mine as well, that we couldn't walk to the parks anymore or that. And explaining to my pre-K daughter, well, mommy, why are we at home? Why aren't we at school? You know, she's 4 years old. She doesn't really understand something like that.
Yeah.
So having to, you know, do the little white lies of, you know, we have to be home because they have to clean the school or, you know, this is how it has to be. And now I'm homeschooling our 2 kids now because everything is virtual. So right. I have 2 pre-K kids. So it's just easier that I'm able to take them outside or do lessons that they would enjoy a little bit more than just sitting on a computer. So that's really the biggest thing. I was about to get onto a plane to go to LA when they closed down LAX. So I had literally just checked into my flight when they closed down LAX. So that was big. And obviously everybody's hurting financially. If I can't travel to LA or shoot with people I want to, obviously my fans love me with BBCs, and my husband is a tall Italian guy. So he can be my stunt cock. And then all of a sudden my fans start saying, you know, like, okay, well, when are you going to be shooting with like Richard Mann again? Or, you know, I'm out here, I just shot with Will Tile. When are you shooting with Will again? I'm like, well, I can't really travel, you know, so it definitely changed as far as how much content I was able to put out and everything. So it's kind of hit on all fronts.
And obviously flying puts you at risk too, because now you're in this tube in the air that's full of whatever, who knows, and even if you're wearing a mask, you know, I mean, I wouldn't want to fly. I've canceled several flights since this all started because I don't want to be in a tube, because you don't want to be, you don't know what, you know what I mean? Unless you're driving or you're flying private, you really can't have any control of the situation, no matter how.
So we have to be COVID tested in order to shoot too. Okay. So while I'm out here, I'm only out here for a week and I have to get COVID tested 3 or so times.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So as soon as I land, I have to get tested and everything. So I get tested nonstop, and, you know, I've got 2 little kids, so I'm not going to be doing stupid stuff. obviously I'm in a plane, but as soon as I get home, I strip down, in the hallway. I wash those clothes and then I run upstairs, take a shower, and keep everything down in the basement until I wash all of that and everything too. So,
Did you ever think,
we can go ahead.
did you ever think there would be a time where you were more concerned about something such as COVID than you were from any STDs or any of like in your industry? I mean, it's kind of crazy when you think about it.
Yeah, honestly, it really is. And it's hard because you can do 500 things right and you do one thing wrong and then you're screwed. And then the same thing goes for any other virus, or, even think about like the stomach bug, right?
Oh, yeah.
You see someone have the stomach bug, you're screwed, So you can wash everything, you can do a million things right, and you do one thing wrong and you can get it. So
sorry to interrupt, but I do have to go. Aria, it was very nice to meet you.
It was nice to meet you too. Yeah.
And guys, I will see you next week. I'll still be listening in on Facebook Live though, but I will catch you guys later. And Aria, I'll see you tomorrow.
See you later, Adam the Mallett, everyone.
Bye, Ryan.
Peace, Adam. Yep.
Adam has a convention to go to. He's actually going to a foot fetish convention. He's running a little late for, so I can understand.
So he's got to run a little faster.
Wait, he was talking about the feet stuff earlier, that. So I will ask the Adam Mallett porn star question of the night, because he usually asks it. What do you do for fun in your spare time? Like, what do you have a hobby? What do you do for recreational? I know you like sports, whatever like that, but
I'm pretty boring. I'm not like one, obviously now with everything too, not being out there, the bars or the clubs or anything to have a release. But honestly, like I said before, I live in the real New Jersey, so I try to take the kids hiking, get outside. Just being outdoors is kind of helping my sanity. It's hard, New Jersey's pretty much still shut down. We don't have any indoor dining on. But before that, I would do girls' nights all the time. When everything starts to open back up a little bit now, outdoor things. So I'm going to be doing some of that. Let's just hang out with my husband and just watch silly movies and chill, because we have two totally different schedules. And we're both nonstop in our own respective, I'm being a mom all day long when I'm not shooting, running around two toddlers. So it's always nice to just sit and relax and kind of hang out on the porch,
It's going to be tough. Yeah, and especially like you said, there's no wind and night. I was talking to a pilot yesterday who lives in New York, and he said the same thing about New York City. He's like, you can't eat inside of an establishment yet because of the situation. And I go, that's all fine and dandy when we're in this, September. But what happens when October comes and you get those cold nights where they drop down to 50 degrees? People aren't going to want to sit outside. Luckily for Massachusetts, we have allowed like 20%, 25% indoor dining.
Yeah, so we were supposed to, about a month or so ago, we were supposed to allow 25% in. So restaurants all rehired everybody and restocked. And then they were like, oh, just kidding. We're not. So the poor guys had to pretty much eat at least $10,000, in expenses.
Oh, absolutely.
So they're, per restaurant. So I'd say that they said that they're doing like 10% inside, I think, very soon / this month. So who knows? I'm hoping and praying, because, they're all just trying to make money and put food in their own families' mouths too, like the rest of us. So
that's the thing. And I bartend a few nights a week, so I was out of my night job for about 5 months or so. And you get back. So I'm working last night, and this guy comes in. These are some hillbilly construction workers from some Florida. And they're just walking around without the mask. Now, New Jersey is very much like Massachusetts, where you need the mask to do this, that, and the other thing.
Yeah.
You just adapt to it. You grow to it. You do what you got to do. It's like being on probation, right? It's better than being locked up in jail. You're allowed to do something, but you just can't do the full thing.
You can't do it all. Yeah.
So I'm trying to explain to this guy. I go, listen, I know you don't want to wear it. I don't want to wear it. No one wants to wear it. But if you don't wear it, and we got inspectors to pop in every once in a while to make sure shit's, going right.
Yeah.
Well, if the inspector comes in and sees you not wearing it, he's going to assume that none of us give a shit, and then he's going to shut us down for a week, and then none of us are going to have a job for a week. And it's not like you could work at your construction site. You're going to be fine when you go to work. But like for us, we legally can't open because of the law.
Yeah.
And to get into some people says it's very difficult. But I feel like the majority of people kind of understand it, I guess. I mean, I don't know. It just sucks you guys can't do anything indoors. I mean, that just got to be.
Yeah, our gyms aren't open either.
Oh, really? Okay. They just opened gyms, Ryan, about a week ago or so, I think in Massachusetts, and people.
It was a little longer than that, but like the rules and stuff, everything seemed like crazy because you have to wear a mask like the whole time, like you're. It just doesn't seem like something that's if I'm
Someone's gonna have a heart attack and die, but let's do it anyway. Yeah.
I walked by a couple people jogging a couple weeks ago, and it was probably, I don't know, 95, 96 degrees of high humidity, and they're wearing the mask. Now, I
have a heart attack every time I see that. So I'm like, just don't die while I'm driving by. Like, oh my God, like you're gonna die. Like, you know.
I don't feel it's necessary to wear a mask when you're by yourself, social distancing properly, or you, for example, in your car by yourself with the windows up. I find it's very unnecessary to have the mask on, but they have it up and it's like past their eyes and they're driving like this. And you can always tell because they're the ones in like the left lane going about 20 miles per hour and they're just like, driving along like no cares in the world. I understand you're precautious. I understand some people need to put it on them some way or another so they don't forget it, which how many times have we already forgot them walking in, you're like, I go to a store like, oh shit, I gotta get my mask on my car.
Yeah.
But to have to drive wearing one seems very reckless. I mean,
you're your own worst enemy,
right?
You know?
Like now, I have a Jeep. I had the doors off, roof off, and I was driving, no mask, stuck in traffic. But I feel like I was far enough from another vehicle that I wasn't causing any issues. You know what I mean? But I don't know. It's just I can't wait to. I bet that filming it is mask porn, right? I bet there's people wearing masks.
Yeah, there's a lot of mask porn. That's like the mask fetish. But that gets kind of weird. Too. In my opinion, I don't really like doing mask fetish stuff because to me, you're covering the person's face and then it's kind of synonymous with like trafficking.
True.
You know, like, yes, a lot of people cut a hole in it and you're like, oh, look, I'm sucking a dick, like kind of as a nurse or this or that or whatever. But at the same time, it's like, I just don't, a lot of time, and like masks are really, you know, like the ski masks are kind of big too for like a lot of people. That shoot, and I have people that I love shooting with that wear the ski masks, but it's hard a lot of times to not see the person you're with's expressions, you know, because then it's almost like it's a non-human experience, you know?
I would say that's exactly it. The mask, it's so funny. How many times have you smiled at someone and realize as you're smiling that they cannot see you're smiling?
Especially as a mom, you know, like I'm smiling at little kids. I'm like, oh, hey there, you know. Right. And it's like, well, is this stranger danger or is this like a nice mom that's also shopping, you know? So it's really hard.
My son's 9 months, so he's only been on this planet for 2-3 months knowing people didn't wear masks. And as he's developing and getting older, he's starting to recognize things. So now he recognizes people with a mask and without a mask. So it's kind of weird and it's kind of sad that he's getting used to masks.
Yeah, I haven't really exposed my kids to the masks too much, just because they're so young and everyone keeps saying a new normal, but we're praying that it's really not, you know?
Fuck that. No new normal. I'm going to tell you this thing. They can't stand. No one's going to be – we're not like some weird countries that wear masks all the time. There's no way in hell the United States is going to be cool with wearing masks.
Let's hope and pray because we've already seen what's happened when you take your mask off at a Home Depot or a Walmart. So, you know –
I experienced this where I'm from, north of Boston. There's a lot of Italian population there, and I went to this convenience store the other day, and this is a couple guys, and they had the masks, like just not covering the nose, just their mouth, and they're just talking. They're playing Keno in the convenience store, right? And this little old lady, she had to be like 80 years old, comes in, all dressed in black, and she sits there, and she's with her cane, and she looks at these two guys and goes, "Put your mask on." And then looks at the other guy and goes, "Put your mask on." She keeps on walking through the store, and the guys were like, they're like middle-aged guys. They look at her, they were like, sorry, like this lady was like
what do we do? Yeah,
very scary and very, very intimidating. And I was like, I'm looking at her, I'm like, Jesus, thank God I have my mask on.
Like she come at you with the ruler next, you know?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So where could we, or the viewers I should say, come see some of your stuff? What's your website? What's your plug site?
So you can find me on Pornhub, Aria Khaide. You can find me at OnlyFans. I keep it really simple. I just keep it Aria Khaide. There's no crazy symbols in the front or the back. Yep. For Twitter, I am Aria Khaide XXX. You can find mostly OnlyFans have all the behind the scenes. You get my scenes a day early. I'm on many vids. You can text me on Sext Panther. So I'm really all over.
There you go. And you have a husband that's cool with it, and everything seems to be going great.
Oh yeah, he keeps texting me, "How you doing? How are your shoots? You being a good girl? You being a good slut?" And I'm like, "Of course."
Nice.
Do people ever recognize you out in public?
I have. coincidentally, there are a bunch of dads that follow me at one point, and they kind of have recognized me, or I've gone somewhere and I have a girlfriend text me and she's like, oh my God, I'm at work and somehow porn came up and they said that their favorite star, their favorite person that they just came across is Aria Khaide and they can't get enough. And I'm like, oh my God, this is hilarious, you know? So there are moments when it happens. Now with a mask, you can't tell who it is anyway if I'm walking through the street. But it's funny that once in a while, or if I'm out with the family, people are kind of looking at me like, oh, I think that's her. And I'll kind of give them like a wink back. Like, you don't have to out me in front of my family, but I see you and you see me, you know, like, have a good day, you know.
I bet that happens to every guy that's sitting there. Like, you guys are like at a farmer's market or something like that. And the guy's going with his family and because he looks, this is the devil look and he's like,
it's like, I'm sorry, do you have any eggplants? I'm looking for eggplants.
Penis-shaped vegetables. What do you get for penis-shaped vegetables?
Yeah. Cucumber?
That's awesome.
Exactly.
Well, thank you for joining us tonight. It was awesome.
Oh, definitely. Thank you for having me. I had a blast with you guys.
Thank you for coming on. And yes, check out Aria. You won't be disappointed. I can tell you that much. And she won't be doing any mask stuff. So all those people who are into this quarantine, stuff like that.
Lots of sloppy blowjobs, facials, cream pies, everything.
Awesome. Well, thank you again, and we'll talk to you soon.
Sounds great. Thanks so much, guys.
All right. All right, man. That's Aria Khaide.
Yeah, man.
Cool, huh? Added to our list of adult film stars who've done this show, and I feel most of them enjoy it. Would you say?
Yeah. Man, I think like, you know, a lot of times and stuff and everything, like adult film stars are looked down upon. So like, you know, some publications and stuff only do it like when it's useful.
Yeah.
So like, you know, I've made like, you know, a mission and stuff and everything to, you know, continue to, you know, do interviews and stuff with them, and you know, it's worthwhile. I think like, you know, it may cost me some interviews sometimes and stuff and everything. Like I've been turned down.
Yeah.
Like I think like Oliver North had a problem, like, you know, with doing, you know, but I was like, man, you were like, you know, smuggling coke with Iran and Contra. So like, like are you really in a moral position, you know?
No, I feel like it's like one of those like taboo type things, I guess you could say. I mean, because you'd find out that majority of people out there recognize some of these gals and guys and stuff, but they never admit it. And it's like when they get into their safe zone, you know, I feel like this show's a safe zone. I feel like people who watch it will like, oh yeah, we know that person. We're like, oh, there you go. But they're not gonna go to like
somebody's clearly watching the interviews on my page, because like, you know, I've got like interviews and stuff, everything with like 12,000 views with some of them.
Oh yeah.
You know, like, and like, so someone's watching them. Like I post them on my page, and like, you know, I do interviews with like some pretty mainstream celebrities that have like, you know, some notable names, and like they don't compare, like, you know, as far as the views and like the comments and stuff and everything. Like I could do an interview and stuff and everything with Barack Obama tomorrow, but it's not going to compare with like, you know, like the viewership that I would get with like, you know, an adult film star.
Well, for example, this show, one of our #1 views on YouTube is Alex Cole. And when she was on our show 5-6 weeks ago, and when you Google her name, our show will pop up on the interview and stuff like that. It's funny when you compare it to like other things too. It's like, you know, inventors, scientists, you know, authors, politicians, right? Things you think would get a lot of views. But in the root of all of it for us, and worldwide, I guess you could say, is that porn sells. And that's why VHS won over, what the hell is it? It was VHS, and it was the other tape that was Betamax.
Yeah.
So the reason VHS won over Betamax was because the porn industry decided to go VHS instead of Betamax, and then that killed the Betamax industry because that's the route everyone went. Fast forward 20 years down, we had HD DV and we had Blu-ray. So HD DVD was equivalent to the Blu-ray, but there was two different, you know, devices to watch it. Porn decided to go Blu-ray. And when they did that, it killed HD DVD, like overnight. So porn sells. I mean, people still buy magazines. Playboy is still one of the top selling magazines in the world.
Yeah, man. One of the people I really look up to is Larry Flint, you know, from Hustler.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And, you know, just like all the work he's done and stuff, everything like it, you know, like as far as like freedom of speech
Mhm.
You know, like, you know, you think about like, you know, he had that lawsuit and stuff, everything against like Jerry Falwell back in the day, like, you know what I mean, and stuff, everything where he kind of like, you know, depicted like Jerry Falwell, like, you know, in an outhouse
Yeah.
and stuff, everything, and like they sued him and like, you know, basically like, you know what I mean, and stuff. The Supreme Court, he took it all the way to the Supreme Court and they ruled in his favor, you know. And I mean, I think it's really important, and that's why like I get along with a lot of conservatives. I really believe about like, you know, the power of free speech. And you see like, you know, on the internet and stuff, everything, sometimes like people were trying to like censor,
Oh
you
yeah.
know,
Yeah, absolutely.
a lot of voices. So
This show's been censored numerous times, or attempted to be censored. But guess what? We don't have any obligations to any corporate America, so we can do what the fuck we want. And as long as the avenues that broadcast us allow us to broadcast, then this is about all we can do. So there you go.
yeah, that's really important, man. And you know, I've experienced it, you know, especially like, you know what I mean, as far as like with the trolling online
Mhm.
and stuff, everything, like, you know, sometimes and stuff, everything, like, you know, having a voice, like, you know, if you're blogging and stuff, everything, it's like you're really putting your opinion out there, like, you know, how you feel.
Yeah.
There's always going to be some group or like, you know, a group of people that feel the opposite way and want to challenge that and stuff, everything. So that's really interesting, you know.
So obviously we're big YouTubers. We watch YouTube. We subscribe. We have our shows and stuff. And it's funny because you watch these people, right? So you have, you know, I have my favorites. You have your favorites and whatever. And then you go and read the comments. And I typically don't because it's just full of garbage. But like some people, I got into it this afternoon. I was on Facebook. I was watching Channel 7 Boston's live stream of Governor Baker's talking about the updates and stuff like this. So I
Yeah.
tuned in. I was just curious what he was going to say. And I'm listening to him, but I'm reading the scroll. And I'm just reading a bunch of middle-aged and old people just bickering, saying stuff they would never, ever for the life of them say if they were in a group of these people. If you put all these people into an auditorium, they would never, ever say these things. But because they're on Facebook, they're sitting there and they're just talking shit. None of us know. Everyone's taking one side or another, making sense, totally neglecting whatever the governor's saying or what he's trying to talk about, right? So I wrote a comment. I go, wow. I go, this is exactly why middle-aged people and older people should not be on Facebook. This thread right here. And I got a few laughs. And I was getting these angry people responding back. What are you supposed to mean by that? Are you being age discriminative? And I just left it as I left the thread die because I basically what I want to say is, listen, if you were in a public space, you would never ever. There's some crazy people that would, but majority of people would not say this stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It you know, it's like, I mean, I think that's the thing about the internet and stuff, everything. And like I've called people out because like, you know, I see like, you know what I mean, a lot of times people commenting and stuff, everything to me, things they would never say to my face.
Exactly.
And like, you know, you see that about like other people and stuff, everything. And I'm not like that because like, you know, I would say like, you know what I mean, and stuff, everything, a lot of things and stuff, everything that I say online, I would say that to the people and stuff, everything that I write about. I write a lot of things and stuff confrontationally and stuff, everything, even though like none of it, like, you know, is really personal most of the time.
Yeah.
But like, you know, I see like, you know what I mean, and stuff, like some of these sites and stuff, everything. And like, you know, I'll read the comments and stuff, everything. And I see how like certain people get labeled as like, you know, white supremacists and stuff, everything, or their platforms, because like, you know what I mean, you'll read the comments and you'll be like, geez.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean, and stuff, everything, like the comments and stuff, everything, they're just like, you know what I mean, underneath it. And, you know, the world, man, it's really like, you know what I mean, and stuff, everything. A lot of people are getting online confused with real life.
Oh yeah.
Like just because you have like a huge number of followers, and I'll show this, like, you know, even in mass, like, you know what I mean, and stuff. You had like Dr. Shiva. I don't know if you've seen the article, the blog.
I was gonna talk to you about that. Yeah.
So like, you know what I mean, and stuff, everything, huge following. But like, you know, just because he has a huge following doesn't mean like he's gonna win a primary and then to call it like election fraud. There's no proof of like, you know what I mean, and stuff, everything. There's election fraud actually taking place. And like some of these conservatives are coming off as batshit fucking crazy.
Yeah. So it was actually, it's funny that you said that. So I remember he ran 2 years ago as an independent, right? So he was going for that election. I remember his slogan was, only a real Indian can beat a fake Indian. That was this big slogan he had on signs all around the city, which I thought was kind of funny. And so I kind of got introduced to him a little bit. I read about him and stuff like this. And then I have a buddy who's actually who really follows him very much, who lives out in the West Coast, but he's from this area. And he was like, he's a doctor. He's come up with all these ideas and stuff. So I'm like, all right, let me look into him. Let me read about him, stuff. So I did, and I go, all right, this guy is a smart guy. Guy knows what he's talking about and stuff like this. But just because you're a smart guy doesn't mean you're a good politician. Because I would say 90% of being a politician is being your social skills, right?
Right.
So he
getting along with people.
Yeah, and he doesn't seem doesn't seem to have the social ability to be able to have the charisma or to win over the votes. He seemed very, very, just boom, 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 very businesslike. You know what I mean? He has good ideas. His thoughts and his theories that he has make sense. But that's a percentage of, you have to convince people. You have to convince that 80-year-old lady sitting there on a rocking chair who voted for Kennedy in 1963 that you're the guy who won't vote. And I don't want to be, to go to like race wars or discriminative, but you have to convince some of these older people to vote for a non-white guy, which is tough sometimes, right? So you have to convince this old lady to vote for this Indian dude, right? This Indian dude may have all the answers in the book, right? He might know the cure to cancer. He may know how to fix the economy and all this stuff, but he comes off very businesslike and doesn't have a lot of charisma. And we all remember what happened in that debate when Nixon debated Kennedy many years ago. It was about charisma. Nixon was there sweating like a dog, couldn't answer any questions, and Kennedy was so charismatic and so cool as a cucumber and was able to win every housewife in the United States over, and he won the election, essentially. And that's half the battle. I mean, it's more than half the battle. I feel like you need to win people over with your personality before you can even start issuing ideas, because no one gives a shit about you. How many people you go, if you show a picture of two people, right, and you go, who are you going to vote for? And you had a nice, handsome, young, well-dressed gentleman, and you had some bum off the street, you're going to vote for the well-dressed gentleman or woman, or for that matter, over the bum. And the reason is because of the way they look, right? Even though the bum might have way better ideas and have way better intentions, but no one gives a fuck of that. You know what I mean? Half the people are very blind to that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like people and stuff and everything, like really support like what they're familiar with. Mm-hmm. I think like when you're a force, I think like Dr. Shiva could have actually won his primary and stuff and everything if he had did certain things. So
you mentioned something about him setting up rallies and not showing up or not being. What was that about?
So like I actually like went out to like a couple of his events that he advertised on Facebook and stuff, everything. Like, you probably saw me like the pictures I posted, the Joe Kennedy events, similar to that. Like, these are advertised events. Like you go on their Facebook page, they're supposed to be there at this particular day, this particular time and stuff, everything. I went there and like nobody was there.
Really?
I contacted his campaign and stuff, everything about it. Like, and I never got a response. So like, he's not even like actually like I only went to a couple. Mm-hmm. So like, after the second time, I'm just like, I'm not going to go, like, and stuff, everything, like all around to these events, but like, he was never in Cambridge, like, so like, it makes me think like, a little bit of that is a sham. I've seen like music artists kind of like use that formula where it makes it seem like they have all these shows and stuff, everything. Yeah. And like, when you go to the show, it's like, there's no show.
It's like,
you know what I mean? And stuff, everything
like Fire Festival. What the fuck was that called in the island? That Jaru was like, right?
Oh, well, that was actually supposed to be a show. That's a little bit different. Oh, it's like, I think like, trying to create the perception and stuff that you're doing more than you are. Like, I'm saying, this is a real campaign. Like, what I mean?
Oh, I get you. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, like if I posted on my Facebook and stuff, everything, like I'm doing the campaign event and stuff, everything for like, and stuff, the mayor of Boston and stuff, everything tomorrow, even though I live in Boston, but like I'm doing a campaign event of Boston, like for mayor and stuff, everything, and I'm advertising and stuff, everything tomorrow. I'm going to be like, I'm saying, at the Boston Wharf and stuff, everything, but I'm not there. But like, and stuff, everything. I think like, that makes me think that he wasn't really taking his events very seriously or his campaign very seriously.
What do you think he obviously spent a lot of money. I mean, I never heard of the guy he was running against. To be honest with you, I didn't see any
Kevin O'Connor.
Yeah, okay, yeah, I never seen anything, any signs, any commercials, nothing. So
he had a commercial. I mean, like he's very like number one, like and stuff, everything for a Republican and stuff, everything to win a Senate race here in Massachusetts. They're like going to have to be a phenomenal force
Yeah.
Like, you know what I'm saying? As far as like, you know what I mean?
You have to be a fake Republican, like
Pretty much.
governor who's claims he's a Republican, but he does have tendencies of a Democrat.
Right,
I
right.
mean,
Like,
yeah.
It's like, you know what I mean? Like,
Diet
I'm not gonna say that it couldn't happen, but like, you know, and stuff, everything clearly it's not gonna happen, like, you know, this year.
Yeah.
And like Kevin O'Connor and stuff, everything, like, you know, he had commercials and stuff, everything, or whatever, like, you know, and stuff, everything, like, you know, but also, like, you know what I mean, and stuff, everything, he benefits from having the last name O'Connor.
True. Irish guy,
You know what I mean?
Massachusetts, can't go wrong, you know?
Yeah, like, you know what I mean, and stuff, everything. Everybody knows a Kevin O'Connor.
Yeah,
You know,
exactly. I went to school with 3 of them. It's a true story. So on that case, what do you think? So Kennedy, the last name Kennedy has never lost an election in Massachusetts.
Yeah, you know, like, man, I thought Joe Kennedy, you know.
I was gonna say, do you think he got into it too early? Do you think he kind of grew too many? His balls were a little too big for this particular time. That maybe he should have marinated a little bit more on his Senate. That he was.
No, you want to know what I think? Like, you know what I'm saying? The biggest fault, I think, like, people here are tired of hearing about race.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? And that was the main, like, you know what I'm saying, component of his campaign.
Which I noticed.
Like, you know, and stuff, everything. He was really trying to align himself and stuff, everything with the Black Lives Matter movement. Yep. And like, you know what I mean? I think that backfired on him a lot. I think, like, you know what I mean, and stuff, everything, he really should have focused on, like, you know, some more core issues that people here in Massachusetts really care about. I think that's the main reason why his campaign failed.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know, and stuff, everything, like, you know, I don't know, like, about, you know, he was, like, you know, speaking at events and stuff, everything with Monica Cannon Grant. And, like, you know, during like one of the events, I don't know if you ever saw the remarks that she had made about, like, Ryla Campbell, who's a Republican and stuff, everything, who's in an interracial marriage.
Oh, yeah,
and,
yeah.
You know, he never disavowed those and stuff, everything. I just think, like, you know what I mean, and stuff, everything, it was a little bit of weakness there. I don't know how much that particular event, like, affected him. But it was just some things and stuff, everything that I saw, like, on the campaign and stuff, everything, like, as far as, like, with the race issues and stuff, everything, I felt like he was just pretty much, because I like him. Yeah. I really do, like, you know what I mean, and stuff, but I felt like, you know what I mean, and stuff, everything, that he was pandering and bringing this race thing, like, you know what I mean, like, it's 1965, and he thought that would win him an election, and I just didn't think that, you know, but he did give a very powerful speech when he was like, yo, you want to talk about the Kennedys? I thought that was very moving, but, like, you know what I mean, and stuff, I just don't think that's where the majority of people in Massachusetts are at right now.
He's going to realize that the majority of Massachusetts who are voting for him are people that just are tired of hearing that stuff, right?
Yeah.
So I guess I don't blame him, but that's what he was aiming for, was the wrong audience, I guess you could say, right? So
yeah.
He could have easily walked in with just his last name alone without, you know, I mean, he was already, you know, elected a senator. He had establishment in the state, right? So it wasn't like he was just like, you know, a Kennedy that just got off the friggin' yacht in Martha's Vineyard and decided he was going to run. He's already, and his dad had Joe for Oil, and it was a very important thing in the state that helped a lot of people. And his uncle was a senator here for 40 plus years, and his, you know, other great uncle was a former president, and his grandfather was a, you know, candidate for president and governor, and I think he was trying too hard. But here's the thing too. So Maki's probably, I don't know, it's not a lot of people who are fans of him that I've talked to. Kind of just by name, because he was going against a Republican, people vote Democrat, and that's the way it goes in Massachusetts sometimes. I don't know. But because Maki took over for Kennedy, right? Absentee for when he went to Secretary of State. And Warren took over for Ted Kennedy, who eventually, but before that, was taken over by Scott Brown. I'm trying to remember the line, because I know Scott Brown filled in for a little while, for a couple of years, and he was a Republican. And then I think it was, and then the next election that was taken care of, and they knocked him out of town. Now he's the ambassador to Australia or New Zealand or somewhere, something like that. But I think Joe Kennedy III, all he had to do was pretty much show up and be like, hey, listen, I'm a Massachusetts guy. My family's Massachusetts family. We know Massachusetts very well. I'm just going to keep on the legacy, right? And there's a lot of people who are younger who would see the name and be like, oh, Kennedy, I know that guy. He was from Massachusetts. His, you know, great uncle was a president. His great grandfather was, you know, a nominee. And
I don't know, man. Like
Yeah.
because I like actually campaigned for him, and like the name doesn't really mean as much in like 2020 as you think it would. Like,
But
and stuff, everything. It was like a constant thing, like people driving by, like, you know what I mean, and saying, Kennedy, you suck. Like, you know what I mean, and stuff, Joe Kennedy sucks and stuff, everything. It's a lot of resentment for the Kennedy name. I think like he was getting a lot of that backlash for, like Chappaquiddick and like, like a lot of the things and stuff that we know now that we didn't know back
yeah.
then because of like, you know what I mean, and stuff, the internet. But I think he's still young. He still has a chance. He could,
Yeah. But do you think those are people who vote or people that don't vote? Because that's a big question right now. Because not everyone votes.
There was a lot of people and stuff, everything who like, because he ads. I'm sure these people vote, and like they would tell me and stuff, everything that they were repulsed by like the fact that they felt he was trying to use like, you know what I mean, and stuff, everything. John F. Kennedy and Robert Kennedy like voices and ads and stuff, everything, and people were complaining about that, and like I thought that was like absurd to me, like an absurd argument. But there's a lot of resentment and stuff, everything. Just there's a lot of baggage with the Kennedy name.
There is.
I mean, everything like.
And there's also legacy too. Now, I'm not saying one way or another whether I'd vote for him or not, but I am thinking that I agree with you. He was using the race thing too strongly, and I think that turns away the older crowd that turns out to vote every election. I would say the 50 plus, right? The old timers, the middle-aged people that religiously voted, and a lot of them that voted for Kennedy over the years. And I think because of the situation in the world these days, or the country, I should say, with the race and everything like that, and him really pressing that, I think that turned off a lot of those voters. I mean, the margin of victory was what he lose by like 8-9% or something like that at the end of the day. For the
man, I honestly, like, and not because of his political party, but because of like what kind of person he is, and like he's a really good guy.
Yeah,
like what I mean, and everything, and like just like one of those people and stuff, everything. I spent some time with his mom, like Sheila Brewster Roush, and like what I mean, and stuff, everything. Like just like really good people, man. Like and stuff, everything. Like I feel like what I mean, and stuff, everything. Like I think it'll turn out to be a good thing for him. Like, I think like a lot of times and stuff, everything you see like these politicians and stuff, everything, and like, Barack Obama, when he ran against, he lost like, like a race, like, what I'm saying, for Congress and stuff, everything. He had challenged, like, I believe Bobby Rush. And like he lost that race and stuff, everything, like he had been an incumbent for a number of years, he's like a Black Panther. He still has that same congressional seat. Like you have and stuff, everything to this day. Like like Bill Clinton, when he lost, like and stuff, everything, the race for governor in Arkansas and stuff, everything, before he came back and run the race and then eventually became president. So it could be like one of those moments and stuff, everything for him and stuff, everything, where he comes back, because like Ed Markey's old. Like, and stuff, everything, like, I wouldn't be surprised if he didn't finish his term, like, and stuff, everything, and they do have to hold, like, a special election, or like, I'm saying, appoint somebody, like, and stuff, everything, because he's that old.
Well, I think with Warren and Maki, I think both of them are. I think that if the Democrats do win the White House, that Warren may have a job somewhere for the Biden, right? He might pick her out to do some kind of secretary, whatever, right? I don't know, of agriculture.
Yeah.
So that obviously would be an abandoned seat in Massachusetts, so you have to have a special election or whatnot, whatnot. Yeah, I agree with you. I think Kennedy I never met him, I never talked to him, but he perceives to be a person who is a legitimate person. I mean, he's a few years older than us. He grew up in Massachusetts. He knows the situation. You know what I mean? I think he was a result of someone who's trying too hard, I think. And I don't think he had to try that hard. I think he just had to kind of just be himself and just kind of let it go. And he may not have won, because we don't know. I mean, but he could have probably been a little bit better off. I mean, I still think he went off a little too early. I think he should have waited till he had a weaker incumbent to kind of go against, what I mean? Or someone who had an abandoned seat and he could easily slide in there. He's a little, eager, I guess, but that goes for anyone, right? Everyone sits at the situation. They're like, well, I could keep my seat and probably win every year, but when do I make that next move? You know what I mean? So
like, well, like Markey, he did, like, you know what I mean, and stuff, everything, like what a smart politician would do. He got with the younger
Yeah.
politicians, got the AOC endorsement, you know, like climate change and stuff, everything is like the big hot button issue and stuff, everything that, you know, a lot of Democrats are like, you know, really hammering home.
Yep.
And like, you know what I mean, and stuff, it worked for him and stuff, everything. It was a lot of young people and stuff, everything, who really voted for Ed Markey, but like, I don't think like they really knew about the facts about, like, you know what I mean, and stuff, that he voted against busing. You know what I mean, and stuff, everything. We have a senator in Massachusetts who actually voted against busing, who was against interracial relationships. You know what I mean, and stuff, everything. And you know, this is, you know, who basically is very rude to constituents. I'm not going to say that he doesn't care, but it's obviously something really wrong with his staff. Where, like, you know what I mean, and stuff, everything. You hear these stories and stuff, everything, of like these constituents and stuff, everything. The one guy who, like, you know, family and stuff, everything, like, you know, reached out to Ed Markey and stuff, everything, because he was like killed in New York by a police officer. And like, you know, Ed Markey's just sitting in the meeting, like, you know, it's like, it's nothing I can really do for you. Or the guy who's like wife, like, you know, ran off with their son to the Middle East or something. You know, it's like, you know, and stuff, everything. It's just like, he just has like, you know, a thing where he rubs people the wrong way.
Yes.
And, like, kind of.
Yeah. No, and I agree. And then he aligned himself like AOC for that matter. There's a lot of people that don't like her, and they're not even living in New York City. They just don't like her persona. They don't like the way she goes about things. You know what I mean? Whether they're threatened because she's a female or she's young or any of that nature and stuff like that. It's a very bold alliance to have. You know what I mean? Especially when the majority of people that vote in Massachusetts are probably 55 plus, right? I mean, the polls show it. Young people don't typically vote much. They do, but they're not. Our parents, our grandparents are religious to get into the polls, right? You and I, maybe we get there. Younger kids, they talk about it all the time, but do they really make it out there? A lot of them don't. To be surprised, you know what I mean? It's just, but Markey knows that he's going against O'Connell, who, it's a Republican in Massachusetts who's not very famous. I mean, it's an Irish name in Massachusetts, which gets you a little bit of credibility, but it's not going to get you a Senate seat by any means. You know what I mean? It's just the way things are. And you got to understand, like, it's weird because the people who are Democrats, so there's a lot of older people that are Democrats, right? But like 40 years ago, the Democratic Party was for those people. It was for the hard worker factory people. It was for all. It wasn't for like the super rich people like it is now. But these old people are so in their minds that they've been voted Democrat since they were, you know, working on the assembly line in Assembly Square in Somerville in 1955, that this is their power, but they don't bother to do the research. They don't go online and figure things out. You know what I mean? Even though typically or respectively, they may be more qualified to be a Republican in the sense of the way they're living, but they just don't understand that. You know what I mean? But you can't, you've talked to older people. You know how it is. You can't crack that shell. It's tough to change a 7-year-old guy who's been thinking one way his entire life and try to convince him in all aspects of life, race, politics, you know, technology, right?
You gotta be a force, like, only, like, you know, like, it's like, I think like maybe like a couple times in your lifetime is there somebody who can come around like that. And like Barack Obama is like one of those type of people, you know, and stuff, everything, where it's like, you know, it's like, oh, you know, even like I feel like, you know what I mean, and stuff, everything, like, he's one of those people that's so charismatic that, like, you know what I mean, and stuff, everything, regardless of, like, you know, your feelings on race and stuff, everything, you'd be like, hey, like I remember, like, you know, and stuff, everything, because he's interracial, you know, and stuff, everything, people saying, like, you know, for the first time and stuff, everything, like, you know, he's half white too. Like, like, what have you ever heard that, you know, like, so.
No, he was a candidate that it won people over. It gave people the idea. I mean, he wasn't, oh God, he's the opposite of a Clinton. You know what I mean? And not talking about Bill in his early days. Bill was fine his first term and stuff like that. And then, you know, he got some street cred by getting a blowjob and not getting in trouble for it. But it was like, you know, at that time, he should have stopped at the Clintons. But then Hillary continued and it just kind of, I feel like it was driving Clinton's name into the ground a little bit. You know what I mean? Like maybe she wasn't the one to continue it. You know what I mean? I don't know. That's the way I looked at it. I go, if the world ended and we were like, well, Clinton served 2 terms and that was it, and we never heard of Hillary running for senator or Hillary running for president, we would have still looked at Bill and been like, you know, times are good, economy was good, things were going pretty well. There was very little issues in the country, and that's the way we end of it. And we think of Clinton on a positive note, but because of Hillary and all that shit, and then everything she got wrapped up into, you kind of forget the legacy of Bill Clinton, and all you can really think of is his wife and a blowjob. You know what I mean? That's what's left with all of us to think of. You know what I mean? And so it's like, well, that's not 100% true, but not a lot of people do their homework either. So it's like, it's whatever news channel they watch wants to show, I guess. I don't know. You know, at the end of the day.
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
I think me and you agree on a lot of things of like kind of how how everything works. You know what I mean? How like people think. You know, but unfortunately, there's a lot of people out there who this election is going to be very, very interesting. You got to agree, right? I mean, it's going to be who's going to turn out, who is a Trump supporter but not admitting they're a Trump supporter, and who really Trump supporters proclaiming they're Democrats just so they don't get, you know, shamed by other Democrats. Like, I want to know. I can't wait because
it's like, you know, like for Joe Biden. And like, you know, it's obviously been some serious, like, you know, issues, like, you know what I mean, and stuff with him running, like, you know, and stuff, everything.
Yeah.
And then like, just like, you know, when you couple that in with policy, like, you know, the 1994 crime bill, like, you know, me being an African-American man and stuff, everything. And then like, you know what I mean, and stuff, everything. You have for the vice president, Kamala Harris, who's like, you know, or Kamala Harris, she's like, you know, basically locked up, like, you know, a large number of African-American men, like, you know, and stuff, everything. Yeah. Where's the incentive? Mm-hmm. You know, what is this? And like Democratic policies and stuff, they haven't really done anything for Black people and stuff, everything. And that's one of the things I kind of agree with that Candace Owens, like, you know, talks about, or like, you know, other like Republican conservatives. But where like I disagree with is like, you know, where they start making it seem like white supremacy is just a thing of like, you know, the imagination, like, you know what I mean, and stuff like racism doesn't exist at all, and like, you know what I mean, and stuff, everything. It's like it has to be like more of a middle ground, like where I do understand some points, like, okay, so you take the guy like who got shot in Kenosha, Wisconsin, or whatever. He gets shot 7 times, which is like an excessive amount of times to be shot, but he also was resisting. So like, you know what I mean, and stuff. Maybe if he just shot him once, yeah. You know what I mean? And some everything. Why does he have to get shot 7 times? It's like, you know, it's no, even though he was resisting, he was.
But you need to remember what we're talking about right now. We're talking about the small city in Wisconsin, knowing that 99% of Americans never heard of before, right? Yeah. You get a cop who probably never ever drew his gun in his entire career, right? Right. So now he's in a situation where he feels the need that he's threatened, right? Now all this shit's going on in the country. Now it's escalating, right? So maybe a year ago from now, if he was in the same situation, he wouldn't have done that. But now he's thinking, because of the elevation of everything, now I'm like, all right, now he's like trigger happy, right? Now you and I probably wouldn't be able to pull a gun on someone and shoot him like that because we're in our mind, we're like, all right, let's let the situation go. But now if you're threatened and you feel like someone's going to shoot you, now you're on high alert, right?
Well, I don't know. I've gone through like training and stuff, everything like that, like law enforcement type training and stuff, everything. Like I've been pepper sprayed and all that. I was stationed at a Marine Safety Security Team. So like, you know what I mean, and stuff. I feel like, you know, a lot of that is like relying on your training, but like actually being in the field and experiencing something like that. I've been in fights and stuff, everything that was dangerous. Like, you know, so like I feel like, you know what I mean, and stuff, everything that's just a bit excessive.
I think so.
Yeah, like 7 times and stuff, everything. It's like you're pretty much like, yeah. Like, I mean, it's just like once or twice. I don't think like, you know what I mean, and stuff, everything, you know, 7 times just seems.
So we both can agree he was resisting arrest and he should have been stopped, but we also agree that 7 times is not. I mean, I think you could pull the majority of, you know, well-balanced people and agree to that. Yes, he should have resisted. He should have listened and just said, hey, listen, I'm going to put my hand down and whatever. And at the same time, the cop should have been, you know, if you're going to shoot him, 7 times is a little extreme. Maybe you can shoot him in the foot. Maybe you could stun him. Maybe you could tase him. I don't know. I'm not a cop. I'm never in that situation. And God forbid, if I wasn't in that situation, you feel like your life's threatened and you have a family at home with kids and stuff. And in your mind, you're thinking, this guy turns around and shoots me, I'm dead. And there goes my family. So you got to, in both perspectives, you look at it. But well, doesn't that really just go to just being like, you know, all right, maybe training for police should be a little bit different in the way they do things. Not defending on, I mean, I'm not ragging on the police. I go, maybe this should be a universal thing for the entire country to be like, this is the universal United States training procedures for police officers. So no matter if you're in bumfuck Nebraska or you're in Chicago, you have the same procedures based on the situation, right? So that,
I mean, I don't know if that will work because like certain different locales are so different. Like Chicago and stuff, everything, the mentality of the people there is not the same as the mentality of people in Kenosha, Wisconsin. And
it should be. If you're a police officer, your mentality should be the same. If you're a soldier, if you're in the United States Army or Navy or any armed forces, and you're overseas, no matter where you came from, what city you're from, how much the population or what race you are, your mentality going overseas to fight is you take command from your commander and you do your duties, right? And don't you think like being a police officer is just a lower form of that, basically the same idea of a kind of a military state? Because I don't know,
like in a sense, but here's the thing: at different locations, like you know what I mean, require like you know like different security alerts, like you know what I mean, and stuff everything like you know I'm not going to be like, you know, if I'm a police officer in Kenosha, Wisconsin and stuff, everything as on guard, probably as a police officer in Chicago, because like, you know, not as much crime happens. You know, Kenosha is just like an area with 100,000 people, you know what I mean, and stuff, as opposed to being in a big city where they have like, you know what I mean, and stuff, these dangerous criminals, and you're dealing with every type of like, you know, situation and stuff, everything where things can turn deadly. Where like you know what I mean and stuff, everything. I don't think that's really the norm. You know, how many people were like getting shot in like Kenosha and stuff, everything is probably like a handful a year.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I mean, so but there's gonna be, do you think there should be a standard, or you think it's a kind of like an, because I mean, like you said,
I think it would be impossible to do. I mean, I think like, you know, like, I don't think the problem is like, you know, with the police and stuff, everything doing their jobs.
Yeah.
Stuff, everything, like, you know, I think sometimes and stuff, everything, it's the way like laws are. And like, you know, specifically and stuff, everything, like, you know, I think there should be more like, you know what I'm saying, leeway and stuff, everything for police officers and stuff, everything, where they don't have to take people to jail, where they can give people and stuff, everything, the opportunity to just like show up in court.
Yeah.
Because like, you know what I mean, and stuff, everything, like, you know, the for instance, like the incident that happened in Atlanta and stuff, everything outside the Wendy's and stuff, everything, or whatever, the guy, he could have like, you know what I mean, and stuff, they could have like impounded his car, gave him a court date, and like, you know what I mean, and stuff, everything, like,
now you have to show up to court, otherwise now if you don't have your option to show up to court and you don't show up, now you can get arrested. Give them that option, just to,
it's like, I don't understand, it just seems like a humiliating effect, like, you know, and stuff, everything, for people to be arrested for like these situations and stuff, everything, where you're not really like harming anyone.
I got arrested for being in a hotel room with 30 other people, and 10 of them were underage, and it was a college party. Now, for me to spend the night in jail seems to be a little excessive, if you say, for someone who's legal to drink, right? First of all, who brought their own alcohol. I was limited to, I had a 6-pack. That was it. I was going to be in and out. And to have to take the punishment for 20 other people that I did not know. So, and listen, it was a year of courts and money and thousands of dollars and lawyers and probation and drug court and alcohol, AA meetings and stuff for being a 21-year-old at a college party. So for what I went through, I understand that. It's a little excessive. For what, and if they're doing that for people who are doing other stuff, seems to be a waste of the states and federal government's funding for getting. Why aren't we getting the drug dealers and murderers off the streets? Why are we dealing with these fucking?
Yeah, and like, you know, I've been arrested 22 times and stuff, everything, and like most of those arrests though, like, are for like, you know, not showing up to court for like, you know, pay, like, you know, like bullshit, like, you know, and stuff, everything. Like I was walking on, so like I was walking on the median once when I was in the military and stuff, everything, and they gave me a ticket for like, you know what I mean, as far as like walking on a median.
Yeah.
Of everything or whatever. I was like,
that,
you know, I left California. It was like, you know what I mean, and stuff, everything. I totally forgot about this. And then like one day and stuff, everything, like the police got called on me and stuff, everything. Nothing had happened and stuff, everything, like, you know, and stuff, everything. But like they saw that I had that warrant So I ended up getting arrested for that. But like, you know what I mean? And stuff, everything, it's,
Yeah.
it's
It
like,
all
you know,
snowballs, right? Because you like you one thing
Yeah.
and another thing. It's like how many people have a ticket in South Carolina and they can't drive to anymore, right?
Yeah.
And they got it years ago before it was on a database. And God forbid they get pulled over now. And that ticket probably happened 30. I have a friend who can't. He can't ever. We know he can't drive through a certain state because he got a ticket when he was in the military many moons ago.
Yeah.
So we were driving somewhere. It's imperative that you don't get pulled over because you want him to go for a fine that he had, 3 decades ago.
And you know, the messed up thing is like I really try to take care of that. Like, you know, I went to the courthouse, but I had lost the ticket.
Yeah.
And like, you know what I mean? And stuff, everything I was telling him, and the lady was telling me like she couldn't find it. And so like, you know what I mean? And stuff, everything I
don't
just
know if it exists at that point. It's like,
yeah, it's like, you know what I mean? I just like forgot about it. Like, you know what I mean? And stuff, everything or whatever. And like, you know, but like, you know, and stuff, everything, like now I've kind of been like, you know, after like, you know what I mean, those experiences and stuff, realizing and stuff, everything, like, man, you know, I try to handle like that stuff and everything and not be involved in those situations and stuff, everything. And, you know, I was on probation and stuff, everything. So like, I'm actually like excited, you know what I mean, and stuff, everything, because I just got like from my probation officer that I'm eligible to get off probation. So to be finished with all that stuff, man. And
I remember when I got off probation, it was the day before Thanksgiving. And I went there, sat in court all day, and then go to the judge, you explain your case, you ask, the whole, why should I be off, all this stuff. And then they say, all right, you're good. It's like, whew. And you weren't like locked up or anything. You know, you do whatever the hell you wanted to, right? But at the end of the day, it was just like, well, I don't have to worry about that other thing where, like, God forbid I get pulled over for something. Now they're running my name, and then that pops up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
What kind of now you escalate the situation unnecessarily because they think you're some kind of rogue criminal, right? But there was a fucking parking ticket you got in trouble for or something like that.
Yeah.
I know exactly how you feel. Trust me, it's a sucky situation. But it doesn't look like Michi's gonna join us. I haven't seen him pop up, so maybe we'll get him next week, whatever like that.
Yeah,
But it was a good show, and we talked to Aria. All I can think of is the hotel in Las Vegas, the Aria. It's great. It's a great hotel.
Yeah, that's a nice view. I've seen. I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah.
And her husband, good for him. I give him props for encouraging her to join the profession. I mean, that never happens.
Yeah. That's.
But if your wife was like, Ryan, I think you should do porn. Like, what am I, in candid camera or something like this? You're looking around, you're like, what? Oh man, but it was a good show. Anything you want to plug for the end of this episode?
Oh man, everybody just go on thepacky.com and check out my recent blogs. I got some good stuff up there, and see you guys next week.
Hell yeah. And Adam was with us early. He left early, but he's on the Whirlwind Potato on YouTube, and of course thepacky.com. Check all that stuff, and also check out The Wicked Explorers. My wife, my sons, our travel vlog. It's a very adventurous. But Ryan, until next week, we'll see you then. So have a good week, and we'll talk to you soon.